Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Green Witch Homestead. It is Wednesday, it is May, and that means it is officially garden tour season. So this is our first official garden tour. There's a lot going in the garden right now. We've got all our cold crops, our winter sowed crops are in and come up, our perennials are up and blooming, as you can tell. We have half of the victory gardens started, so let's go ahead and dive in and see what's growing in our garden this year. First things first, you might remember that I have been experimenting with a perennial flower garden around our seating trellis, and I've decided I'm just gonna kind of let it become just irises and oriental lilies. Here's some of our irises. I don't remember what color these ones are, and you can kind of see a few oriental lilies tucked in there. I have to get a whole bunch more of those going. My freckles violas are still here. I'm gonna move them. I just haven't decided where yet. They come back every year with a vengeance and they are super cute and they're the first things up every season. As you can see here, this is my little raspberry patch. And then, guys, 2 years. I waited 2 years for these irises to bloom in my garden. Look at how beautiful they are. There's already one faded, but this stalk has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blooms, and it's got a second stalk. These guys are so beautiful. I can't get over it, and I cannot wait for them to spread. I also have over here, you can see there's a couple more small little raspberries. I am gonna dig these out and move them. Our big raspberry patch is back here, and it is hiding in with my peach iris, which is also exploding this year for some reason. It's totally crazy. I also have a mystery iris that's coming up right here. I don't remember planting an iris here, and as you can see, it hasn't bloomed yet. And I'm really curious to see what it is. I think it might be like one of those ones over there, but it doesn't have very much purple on it yet that I can see. So I've kind of been slacking on these two beds right here. That's my asparagus patch, and it was doing amazing, and then this year only one rootstock came back. So I think I'm gonna dig the whole thing out, save that one rootstock, and replant some new crowns, maybe somewhere else. I don't know if it just gets too much rain or what's going on with that bed, but it is the first time in my life that asparagus has died throughout the winter. So we're gonna move that. I do have some more wild asparagus growing, so I'm not super concerned. And then this one right here by our arched trellis, I am turning that into a flower bed. I've got some canna lilies planted in the back, and then I've got just kind of an assortment of wild cut flowers that I just kind of sprinkle the seeds in the front. Moving on to our arched trellis, which, if you remember, was our high tunnel throughout the winter. As you can see, I have the plastic off. The beds are popping. We've got cauliflower, and here I've got broccoli over here. This is my cilantro that I grew all winter long in the high tunnel. I've got garlic planted all on the outside rows here, and on this one here we have beets growing in between the first row, and then I have onions planted in between the back row. I still need to do a little bit of weeding, but as you can see, I have beans planted all the way along this trellis to grow up and over from this side. I chose climbing beans or runner beans, and I chose 4 different varieties of beans, and I interspace them. They're kind of close together, but they'll have lots of growing space on this trellis. I don't remember the names of the beans. I bought them for their color. So I have a pink one, I have a white one, I have a speckled one, and I have a red one. And they're gonna come up over this trellis and cover it with a rainbow of beans. And on this side of the trellis, they're not planted in yet because it's still a little early. There's a chance that we might get a little bit too cold of weather, but I'm gonna be doing my personal melons over on this side. That'll be Kajari melons and chrysanthemum melons. The reason I do the personal melons is because Heath does not really care for melons, and I don't really care for watermelon. So I grow a couple personal melons up here for me, and then we grow lots of watermelons down in the big gardens for him. The cauliflower is doing amazing. The broccoli is doing amazing, and I'm very excited for both. So I have grown lots of broccoli in the past. I've grown cabbage in the past. I have never successfully grown cauliflower. I've never really tried too hard. The last year was the first year we were really gonna delve into the cauliflower, and that's when we had the pig incident and they completely decimated my cauliflowers. So I am extremely excited that this bed is doing so well because I'm gonna have cauliflower. Now, I'm hoping that the beans will start growing really quick up this trellis. I may have to throw a shade cloth on these guys for the next couple weeks before the beans fill in the space. I did plant them here so that they will be under the shade of the beans because cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, they bolt here. It's really hard to grow them in the spring because it gets warm really quickly and you may not have enough time to get them to fruition before they start to bolt. So I've planted them up here so I can cover them with the squash and the beans. But like I said, depending on how quickly it gets hot, it actually got up to 97 degrees today. I probably am gonna have to get a shade cloth over this trellis. Another plant that I am super happy about is my German comfrey. And as you can see, she is starting to blossom. They're actually really pretty, very, very pretty blossoms. Very subtle, but the bees love them. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I am a little bit into holistics and medicinals. So my comfrey is my big money maker. That's what I use for my salves. It's my main ingredient for my healing salves, my Better Than Neosporin, and a lot of the other things that I make. I have had a small comfrey patch for years. Last year I almost lost it. I'm not sure what happened, but I moved it over here and we had it under the high tunnel. It overwintered and it came back with a vengeance. So I'm super happy about that. I'm actually probably going to be able to split it this fall and start another patch in another spot. The more comfrey I can have, the better. Not only does it do awesome for my medicinal stuff, but it's very, very good for using in a compost tea, because the plant itself has tap roots that go really deep down into the soil and they draw up all those minerals that are real far down in there. So that gets into the leaves and then you can compost the leaves straight into your garden, or you can make a tea out of them for feeding your plants. It's a free compost and it's super, super effective. But word of warning, it smells really bad. Our garlic patch is doing amazing. They are coming along nicely. We've got about 2 more months before these guys are ready to be pulled. Over here, I have my new bed. This is gonna kind of be like a kitchen herb bed. I have some wild garlic that I found and transplanted to see how it goes. I've got some chamomile started. My grandfather thyme is in there. There's some weeds in there. And I've started this plant here, which is called Oxalis. It's really cute. It kind of looks like a clover. Now, what's super cool about the Oxalis is a lot of people have seen it. You've probably seen it in your local flower shops and grocery stores around St. Patrick's Day. They sell it and call it a pot of clover. It's actually a native to Australia, and the root or the tuber is edible. They're very small, they're about the size of my thumb, but they're very, very prolific. So I did put them in here. I'm hoping they will take over a good portion of the bed and we will have another edible tuber that we can harvest in the fall for eating. Watched last week's video. This is my carrot bed. This is the one that I seeded with the cornstarch method. I do have more carrots in the market garden over here. I'm going to be doing grow bags of carrots along the sidewalk. I am going to be going carrot crazy this year. One of our highest demanded items at the farmers markets, and I myself love them, so I would like some to put away this season. So we are growing carrots everywhere. This bed over here, which is technically 2 beds, I've got my sugar snap peas in over here, but I've also seeded this bed with sweet potatoes. So I've got sweet potato slips planted in all of this. It's just gonna let it take over. Hopefully we'll get a good yield of sweet potatoes this year. And then the one thing that I am still a little late on is tomatoes. So these 3 beds, this one here has been extended. As you can see, these 2 still need to be extended and they need to be topped off with soil before my tomatoes go in. We have the cattle panels all cut and measured for them and everything is ready. These are gonna be my showpiece tomatoes, so my really fancy, pretty colored ones are all gonna be up here. So this is my little corner piece here that I did with the old wheelbarrow. I've got some beautiful black petunias in here and some white petunias that have they'll come back into bloom in a little bit. And these guys here, which are kind of like this purple speckled. I've got some hollyhocks planted back in here. I have a foxglove planted behind the wheelbarrow and some more petunias on either side of it. The rest of it, as you can see, is not looking so pretty. Normally I keep this grass trimmed. We're doing the logs this year, cutting that in, shoring it up, and actually planting the entire thing. So that project should be getting done here in the next couple days now that it's dried out a little bit. And we're gonna get all that taken care of, and I'll have a whole new front section to plant with annuals. This is the show victory garden. Looks a whole lot different than it did last year when I had the rabbits in here. The trees are all gone. Everything is tilled up and hilled up. There's a few more rocks and things that have to come out on this side. We've got started with our planting over here. This big space right here is going to be seeded with corn. Our sweet corn is going in this weekend. We've got our potato rows in here, so double row potatoes. Single row of cabbage. I do have 2 kales on either end of this row. Our single row of beets and carrots. I'm doing another row of carrots and beets right here. The reason I'm doing that second row is because I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison of 2 different methods for planting small seeded things like beets and carrots. So this first row that's in is the traditional method where you lightly seed and cover so the seeds don't wash away. And then this row is going to be with my cornstarch method that I showed you in the last video so that we can do a comparison side by side and see how they grow and all the differences between the two. Then it's gonna have my legumes going in, and then tomatoes and peppers and more fun stuff. And then of course, last but definitely not least, is our market garden space. They're looking a little barren for this time of year because we're changing how we're doing things a little bit on this one now that we've got the bigger one. And the bigger one, it wasn't quite ready for planting when it was time to get lettuces and cabbages and stuff in like that. So we kind of skipped that round this year. We will do a round of it in the fall for selling again, but we did skip out on it this year, which is perfectly fine. We've got lots of other produce that we're going to be selling at the market, so I'm not concerned. But down here, we've got the duplicate victory garden where we're growing it to scale. So again, this front patch is going to be sweet corn, and I'm going to do some small winter squash right in here to just kind of take over this space. We've got our potato rows in. I am skipping the cabbages and carrots down here because the ground is not good enough for the carrots yet, and it's too warm for cabbages already. So we're gonna go straight into tomatoes and peppers. I'm gonna be sowing beets down here as well because they're more of a surface sow. They don't go quite as deep as the others. And we're just gonna kind of double up on all of our tomatoes and peppers and things like that. Bush beans and things down at the end, as well as some more onions to go in and all kinds of other things that we're gonna sell. The other thing that I'm doing, because we have the downslope, I'm going to be planting a squash at the end of every row that will grow out into that field and have lots of space and help keep the weed suppression down. This spot here, this is our market garden that we grew in last year and that we have been working on for several years. You can see just how amazingly glorious that soil is. We had the silage tarp on it, as you can see, killed all the weeds in it. And what I'm going to do is this is going to be our squash patch. So we have the fencing already around this place. So I am just going to fill this up with pumpkins and winter squash and watermelon and all those fun things and just let them take over this space. We're going to grow a lot for our consumption to feed to the pigs as well as to sell at the market. Definitely seems like a lot of space and a lot of work, and in truth it really has been a labor of love. There has been a lot of work to go in, but we've spread it out so nicely that it's not really been a huge chore. Everything in the garden takes time, so enjoy it. Do a little bit earlier than you normally would, and then you'll have less to do when it's time. We preserve a lot of our food, so what doesn't get sold at the market goes to feed us or our animals here on the homestead. So regardless of what we do and how we grow it, as long as we get food and seed in the ground, we're good to go. That's our first official garden tour of 2022. And as you can see, we have a lot of empty space, a lot of things to fill in. and a lot of work to do, but I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it, and it's gonna be fun doing these tours every week to see how much everything changes week by week for my own benefit and for you guys to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the videos, give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe to our channel. Every Sunday we will be uploading information about the farm as well as more detailed instructions on the step-by-steps for the Victory Gardens. And Wednesdays we will be doing our garden tours. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for following along. And remember guys, get out there and get your hands dirty.